This is going to make me sound super old, but games aren't the same as they used to be. When a game became popular in the 2000s, it was because it stood out, had something very unique about it. Minecraft mastered survival sandbox and procedural generation. Shadow of War had its nemesis system, and FNAF was so uniquely terrifying and revolutionary that it's got its own genre of games now. But games don't do that anymore. Sure, there have been amazing games recently, but they aren't striving to be something new. The closest I think we've had concept-wise is Starfield, and, well...
Boring! We're so fucking boring!
I'm sorry you had to see that. On this day, I will be attempting to make my mark on game development. I will be making... First, let's address the problems with current world generation. If you take a look at a game with any kind of procedural world generation, it is almost always infinite, or I guess close to it as it can get. This works for a lot of games, but for realism's sake, it obviously is not the route you want to go. Next is rivers and mountains. They just kind of exist where they want, which is not at all accurate to realistic mountains, obviously. Rivers also usually start at oceans and end at oceans, which if you know anything about rivers is not at all how they function. Another issue I'd like to tackle eventually is biome placement. Biomes are just placed randomly, when actually biomes and where they're located is a very complex topic that we'll most likely have to spend an entire video on by itself. If I have to be honest, this is going to be rough. To start out, I need an actual idea of what I'm doing. After watching some videos on procedure generation, I found a plugin for Godot that already has a base for me to start off of. It definitely wasn't perfect, but it was an amazing launching point. A huge inspiration, and the only reason I know this is possible, is Asgard's fantasy maps, which I had actually used to build Minecraft maps off of back in the day. It's incredibly in-depth and realistic, and I highly recommend checking it out in the description below. Now, I wanted to make it appear much more like continents than islands, so I fiddled around with it, and I wasn't very happy with the results at first. But after smacking it on a globe, it was a lot better. Yeah, it definitely helped a lot. The only thing that was an issue was at the poles. It was stretching, and I was not able to find an easy solution to that. The obvious thing to do would be to unwrap the texture and make it almost like an actual map projection. The issue is, I have no clue to do that. Shaders would probably be the easiest way, but I'm not very experienced with shaders, so that will have to wait as well. Now, to recreate mountains, most people just take the highest point of the noise, turn it gray, and call that good. That's not really how mountains work. Rarely is a mountain at the center of a continent in a large cluster. The closest example to that in real life would be island chains, like Hawaii, how they're formed by moving tectonic plates and volcano activity. But that is not very common for continents, to my knowledge. I don't think there's any continents that have a mountain as their center. Taking a look at America, you can clearly see you have lots of mountain ranges, but none of them are located near the center. The correct way to simulate mountains would to be actually simulate plate movement. I do not know how to do this, so instead I added a layer of noise, made sure it was similar to how mountains actually form in their ranges, made them similar in arrangement to when plates collide, and placed that on top of my existing noise generator. After a while of fiddling that around, I finally did it. It didn't turn out exactly as I was hoping, but it works. After consulting an actual map, I restricted the size a lot more and made them even more snake-like. I don't know how scientifically accurate most of these formations would be, but they do look cool, and that's really what I care about. Speaking of things I did just because they were cool, I changed the globe color around because I was generating a height map in real time on the object, so it got really weird in some spots, but when it's grayscaled, it doesn't look that off. So there's my little side project, and that'll explain why the globe looks weird or I guess looks different for the rest of this. Next was adding rivers. I figured I might be able to achieve similar results using another noise layer, but I was very wrong. It was not it. With the mountains, it's much easier to simulate their real-life properties, but rivers follow very strict paths. So it was a lot harder for it to be easily recreated with noise. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but not one that I could find. To simulate rivers, I needed much more specific generation that would start at mountains and end at the coast. I didn't know how to go about this at first. I tried different Godot nodes, but eventually I just made a simple algorithm that takes a basic node, checks the tile map around it, and goes to the lowest one possible. So by doing this process, it would eventually find itself to the coast. It does have some weird results when it gets caught in a large area with no way down. An easy way to fix that would be to make it more distinct when it goes down, instead of having large flat areas. But for this, it works fine. This is all I needed, basically. Huge thanks to Sunny Valley Studio for making this video about rivers. It was in Unity, but I was able to translate it mostly to Godot. They're not very dissimilar, and I basically only needed the concept. But yeah, they will be linked in the channel description, along with the resources I found for procedural generation, Asgard's fantasy map, and all of that good stuff. So yeah, I recommend you check them out. After I finished the rivers, I added a max river slider and a way to view your seed, so that when I do publish this project, you will be able to actually keep track of your seeds and keep them in case you find a really cool one. Unfortunately, this is all I have today. This has been a long project to work on so far, and it's been a lot of small tweaking that's really tedious and would be annoying to go into this video. So don't just assume I'm lazy and didn't do a lot of work. I swear I did. It's just I had to cut most of it because it's not really all that interesting. Next, I hope to add wind patterns because that'll be a big step towards developing biome placement. I appreciate you getting to the end of this video. If you did enjoy, do all the generic YouTuber stuff. In other words, this has been Brandon, and you've been watching